Hello and welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Samaniego here along with Kobe Lambert from the podium finish, Daniel Seri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet, and Adam Lemeries. Very exciting show. A lot of racing to talk about, including Formula One Austria. We asked in the chat room, which race are you most excited about? We encourage everyone in the chat room to participate as we'll be talking a lot about it. All the races, IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR, but we'll first start off with a post-race recap of the W Series from Daniel.
We have just finished the W Series race, the second of the season, of course. After last weekend, Austrian Grand Prix together with Formula One, of course, the all-female championship is back after 2 years almost since their last race in 2019. Last weekend it was all about Alice Powell. Dominant performance for the British driver. While this weekend it was all about Jamie Chadwick, the reigning champion, coming back stronger than ever. She led all the sessions in free practice, took pole position, and now won the race lights to flag, and also scored the fastest lap of the race. Starting alongside Jamie was Bijske Visser, her main rival from 2019. And I would say that we were all looking forward to see another interesting battle between Jamie and Bijske. But unfortunately, Bijske stalled on the grid and left the door open to Irina Sidorkova, one of the most interesting young drivers from this year's field, who finished second, and Emma Kimiläinen, who was also third in qualifying yesterday, but had to start sixth due to a three-grid drop penalty after an accident in the previous race. She started sixth and then managed to climb back up to third. So another podium for Emma, the Finnish driver. So Sidorkova, the youngest drivers on the grid, and Emma, the older driver on the grid, finished second and third, and they were battling all throughout the race. But it was another really interesting race, not as crazy as the first one, a little bit quieter race, but really interesting also for all the positions. There were huge battles.
Yeah, definitely was very interesting race. Now, Daniel, when it comes to the race, now we see Jamie Chadwick leading Sarah Moore by 3 points in the championship. How close is this championship you think going to be? And is this really the start of Jamie's championship defense?
That's an interesting point. Yes, Jamie is now leading the standings by 3 points on Sarah Moore. Third is also Alice Powell, who won the first race, and today she was eighth. She had to start from the back of the grid because of a mechanical problem on her car that hampered both her practice session and qualifying. And she struggled throughout the race with top speed. So she was not happy at all. But I wouldn't definitely count Alice out, because if she has the car to win, she will be up there to make the big points. Of course, Jamie had a dominant weekend. So I would say that this is the real Jamie. It's not the one that we saw last weekend, because she had that qualifying ruined by that technical troubles. So I would say that Jamie also, she has all the experience from the former regional European Championship last year in 2020, with the racing with the same cars, same tattoos, Formula 3 regional cars. So she has really extended her experience, also racing on some of the tracks that we will be going with W Series later this year, and also at the Red Bull Ring. So I would say that this is the real Jamie. But we also have to see the real Bijske, because she had two non-point scoring results in the first two races, and nobody would expect that Bijske and Marta Garcia.
Yeah, the two of them, Marta Garcia, Visser. A lot of people were talking about them contending for this championship. Big surprise to see the two of them struggling. One person that has been a big surprise, Irina, second place last week, a top 10 finish. Do you think she could potentially contend for this championship? And this is just putting together overall a good start, or do you see this being a championship season where she could have good race after good race after good race?
That's a great point. I would say that Irina with Nerea Marti, who is her teammate at the Academy W Series, they are two of the drivers to watch because during the season it has been confirmed that being the youngest on the field, both Irina and Nerea will have an automatic entry into next year. So 2-year funded seats for both Irina and Nerea. And Irina as well, she was second in practice yesterday and had a great qualifying. Also, Nerea has some great potential. She was fighting with Sarah Moore today, and also Bruno Tomaselli, he's another rookie that had a very, very good start of the season. But Irina, I would say that she is really, really impressing everyone. She was also racing in the Asian Formula 3 Championship in the winter. So she managed to have some good experience of the Tatu's Formula 3 car as well, maybe unlike some of the other drivers who have been away from the Formula Car for over 2 years. So I would say that we will definitely have to watch both Irina and Nerea, because Nerea today was a little bit unlucky because in a battle, and she was stuck behind Bruno Tomaselli a little bit, but I would say that she had the pace to maybe try to get maybe not for the podium, but definitely for a top 5. So I would say that we have definitely to watch both Irina Sidorkova and Nerea Marti for the remaining of the championship.
And for the remaining of this championship, a lot of people are starting to talk about Marta Garcia. A lot of people talk about her as an early championship contender. Does she need to change her approach in the remaining races? Because only 6 races this year, 2 done, no points. So only 4 races left for her.
Yeah. Well, Marta had a very unlucky start of the season. She had a technical issue, so no fault of her own at the Austrian Grand Prix. And also very, very difficult start today. She was one of the 3 drivers that stalled on the grid. One, of course, was Weissgewisser, and the second one was Ayla Agren, who has had the same issue for the second time in a row now. But yeah, Marta was stuck at the start, and then tried to recover, and she actually was again fighting for the top 10, but had an accident with her teammate Gojar Dest, and she spun Goja around. So not something that you would really want to have a contact with your teammate. I think at that point she was a little bit under pressure because, of course, as I said, not very long championship, and she was a little bit under pressure and made that mistake. Hopefully it will all turn around for Marta coming to the next race at Silverstone, because I would say that she is also another driver. We often said this in the build up of the championship, that she definitely has the potential to be up there and fighting with Alice Powell and also Fabian Volven, who had another unfortunate qualifying yesterday. But they are all drivers that will be fighting for top positions as the season progresses, I would say.
It's going to be a lot to watch this season, and we see in the chat room people talking about they enjoyed the W Series race. Definitely encourage everyone in the chat room, share your thoughts, opinions, and questions with us on the air. And of course, W Series and all the women racing, will be following them on our show, Women Racing to Win, every Thursday right here on YouTube. You can catch me and Daniel there. Daniel, thank you for your time in recapping the W Series race in Austria. We'll see you next time. We'll now go to Kobe for the preview of the NASCAR Cup Series race at Road America.
The NASCAR Cup Series heading to Road America for the first time since the 1950s. Tim Flock won that race back in the day, and many are wondering who's going to be joining his name on the winners list. Many suspect Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr. to be in contention for the win since they run really well on the road courses. Do you believe this is a race for the road course favorites, or do you think we'll see a surprise winner in a potentially chaotic race?
Well, for me, I think we will have a chaotic race. And when it comes to my pick a winner later on in the show, you will be surprised. I'm looking forward to watching this race tomorrow part of as part of the 4th of July holiday. It's going to be very interesting because, as we all know, Road America is a very legendary road course in the state of Wisconsin. I can remember when the IndyCar series used to race there a long, long time ago, and there's so many historical names like Canada Corner. And overall, I believe this will be a great cup race tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
I think this Cup race is going to be very exciting tomorrow. Road America, the Xfinity Series, they have put on a good show at this track. This track, one of the best road courses in the United States. I think it's going to be a very exciting race overall. The big thing is going to be trying to see who is going to be up front in qualifying. You qualify up front, you're going to be up front most of the race. We saw that with Circuits of America. Now, Circuits of America, rain was a huge wild card. That changed up everything. Rain's very little chance. I see whoever's going to be in the top 4 rows, winner's going to be there. So you got to look at your favorites because at the end, it's going to be chaotic. But those restarts, if you're up front, it's going to be much easier to manage.
I do think that this is going to be a race where we're going to see drivers who are typically really good on road courses to go out. Drivers who typically get the job done on road course. I think that they'll definitely be the favorites to win. But I think when we get to the pick a winner section, you guys are going to be really surprised to see who I'm going with because it's not going to be the driver. Who do you think? But I definitely agree that'll probably be a chaotic race. This is Road America. I remember when the NASCAR Xfinity Series started coming here, I believe, at the beginning of the 2010s decade. And we've seen some really crazy races at Road America and with the NASCAR Cup Series returning to this track for the first time since the 1950s. I think it's going to be an incredible race. And the weather all weekend is expected to be sunny with some clouds and little chance of rain. Very, very different than a crazy wet weather race at COTA, a race that Chase Elliott won. And a surprising note, Chase Elliott is currently the number 4 driver right now at Hendrick Motorsports in terms of the playoff rankings. I was surprised at you that Chase Elliott is currently not the top driver at Hendrick right now. That title obviously is Kyle Larson's.
Kyle Larson being the highest up, and then the surprise performance by William Byron and Alex Bowman this year is really showing the strength of Hendrick Motorsports. William Byron, new crew chief, they have a lot of momentum going, and they're just running really great. Alex Bowman, quietly always towards the front. He is there to pounce on the opportunity and get those wins. Chase Elliott, the inconsistency I think has been a drawback, but still, he got a win at Circuits of America. Yeah, it was rain shortened. Some people questioned that, but I think he would have won that race and called the race off, especially with the rain that late. I think was probably the best decision. He is still going to be up there, but the big thing, all of Hendrick Motorsports has improved. This isn't the Hendrick Motorsports of Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson. This is the Hendrick Motorsports of Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Alex Bowman. I think it's as strong as Hendrick Motorsports has ever been, in my opinion.
You know, Joe, after watching NASCAR for a long time, I got to agree with you. I'm surprised that Chase Elliott hasn't won more races this year. But overall, Kyle Larson right now, to me, is the strongest Hendrick driver out there. What he's done this year is so incredible after everything he went through last year. And I'm surprised Chase Elliott has only won one race, even though it was rain shortened at Circuit of the Americas. I thought he would have had a couple wins already this year. But it's Road America. It's a wild card race that NASCAR hasn't been to since the 50s. Do I expect Chase Elliott to be a leading contender for the win tomorrow? You better believe it. Even if he has a top 5 or top 10 finish tomorrow, that may give him a lot more momentum as the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series continues.
And also before I get on to the next part, wanted to mention the two people in the chat room who mentioned the possibility of maybe NASCAR racing at Sebring in the future. I think with the next gen car coming along, I say why not? Well, I think it'll be a great test for that new equipment, considering all of the bumps at Sebring, and we've seen in sports car racing whenever you see a prototype or a GT team build a brand new race car, they'll run like an endurance test at Sebring. They'll run many hours all over the bumps because this track it is so bumpy. It's a true test of reliability, and if there's something off with the next gen car at first, Sebring will definitely find it. And NASCAR will be able to address it because anything can and will break at Sebring International Raceway. So I would really be in favor of seeing Sebring added to the schedule in the future. And here's a question to all of our viewers in the chat room: what are some other tracks around the country in the United States that you want to see added to the NASCAR schedule, or international tracks like maybe a return to Montreal or Mexico City? That would be really interesting in my opinion. And now Kyle Busch is coming off some momentum, winning Pocono on last Sunday. Joe Gibbs Racing only had Kyle Busch score top 10 finishes in both races at Pocono. Danny Hamlin got the top 10 on Saturday. Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell, no top 10 finishes. Is Joe Gibbs Racing headed in the right direction, or do they still have plenty of work to do?
I believe Joe Gibbs has a lot to do because if you look at it right now in NASCAR, it's Hendrick Motorsports versus the field. And if I were Joe Gibbs, I'm surprised that we haven't seen Denny Hamlin in victory lane yet. And if I was that team, I would start to push all my chips into the front and go out as hard as you can and have a good starting spot. Have some really good top pit road strategy and come away with some top fives and top tens. The playoffs are just around the corner, and Joe Gibbs Racing right now, they got a lot of momentum after Kyle Busch's win last Sunday at the second Pocono race. Overall, the organization, they're going to have to find a way to get to where Hendrick Motorsports is right now because I don't think anybody saw this coming with Hendrick Motorsports at the beginning of the season, not even me. So should be interesting for Joe Gibbs Racing as the season continues.
As the season continues, I think when it comes to Joe Gibbs Racing, they got to really start looking at improving all their cars. Because right now, Kyle Busch, he is up towards the front, but it raises the question, is this more Kyle Busch and what he's able to do behind the wheel? Or is it just the other Joe Gibbs teams have that same potential as Kyle Busch? They're just missing something. I think it's a little bit of both. We see with Martin Truex Jr., he has some races where he does really good. Some races is like he didn't show up. One of the big things I feel with Chase Elliott, look at his team. All of them are running really good. But Chase Elliott just seems to be a little bit missing something to get winning performances each and every week. Sometimes it's luck. Sometimes it's just they don't seem to have 100% everything going their way. And I think that's what's going on a lot in Joe Gibbs Racing. Kyle Busch, we know he's very good. He could take some of the worst handling cars, bring them towards the front, a respectable finish. I think everyone else in Gibbs is just trying to see what they could do to improve. But the big thing is, I do think Joe Gibbs Racing, they're not at a point where they have to be concerned, but I do think they do have some work to find what are they missing.
Oh, they absolutely don't have to feel concerned right now. There's still plenty of time to right the ship, and we've seen time and time again where teams will peak early on in the season, and then by the time the playoffs get around, they're nowhere to be seen. And I think we honestly saw that with Kevin Harvick last season. Kevin Harvick was having such a dominant 2020 season. We thought he was going to take the title, and then towards the end of the season, Stewart House Racing just kind of fell apart, and then they were not in contention for the championship. So I think it's way too soon to crown Kyle Larson or Hendrick Motorsports as the champion because it's certainly enough time for Joe Gibbs Racing to get their act together as we move forward deeper into the summer and the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season. I saw some comments there in the chat room suggested a NASCAR race at Monza. I think that would really be interesting in the future if that were to happen. And early this season, we've been talking about the three big teams in NASCAR, the big three: Joe Gibbs Racing, Team Penske, and Hendrick Motorsports. We all know Hendrick Motorsports is clearly the number one team. We no longer need to ask the questions: is Hendrick back? Because it's been obvious and clear for a while now. But yeah, so I think Hendrick Motorsports is on tier one, then tier two, Joe Gibbs Racing and Team Penske, the last team to win that wasn't Gibbs or Hendrick was Brad Keselowski and Team Penske at Talladega in April. If Team Penske is third behind Gibbs and Hendrick Motorsports, where's the rest of the field?
I feel the rest of the field is in trouble right now. I mean, when you look at what it's going to take to beat Hendrick Motorsports, you essentially need Hendrick Motorsports to have really off weekends or bad luck, like the big one at Talladega or Daytona. But you still have Gibbs there. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, he's just knocking on the door for a win. If you're essentially Stewart Haas Racing or any of the other teams, you have a lot to go through. Those three teams ahead of you, they're there in the top 10 week in and week out contending for wins. If you have it where you got the perfect car, you need to have the perfect pit stops all race long. We've seen the fast pit stops from Kyle Larson, from Joe Gibbs Racing, Penske. It is so hard. I think this is probably compared to last year. If you're not one of those three teams, so essentially from Stewart Haas and everybody else, I think it's harder now to win a race this year compared to last season.
You know, Joe, I have to agree with you. Right now, if I were the rest of the field, I would start to put all your chips into the middle of the pot and go out and try your hardest to at least contend for wins, top fives, and top tens. Because Stewart Haas Racing, to me, I said I'm surprised that Denny Hamlin hasn't won yet. I'm really surprised Kevin Harvick hasn't won yet this year. His nickname on the circuit is the Closer. Surprised he hasn't closed in on a few victories. We saw Michael McDowell from Front Row Motorsports win the Daytona 500. And that's been about it from the rest of the field. Bubba Wallace had a strong outing last weekend for 2311 Racing and the second race at Pocono, scoring a top 10 finish. But right now, if I was the rest of the field, I would put all your chips in the middle and do something to get in the at least top fives and top tens, because right now it's Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, Team Penske, and then the rest of the field.
Yeah, I definitely think the rest of the field have a lot of work to do moving forward. Hendrick Motorsports is well out there. Then you have Gibbs and Penske, Stewart Haas Racing. I know they haven't had the season that they wanted. They've shown some flashes of speed, but they're just not there from what we've seen in the past. And I think it's gonna be interesting to watch and see what happens moving forward and see if these teams are able to take the fight to Hendrick Motorsports as we head deeper into the season. I also wanted to bring up the fact, I know Adam, we talked about it on Grid Tonight this week, the really big news that happened. I didn't see it coming. I don't think anybody saw it coming. We mentioned after Kyle Grayson bought those two charters from Spire Motorsports, and Justin Marks, the co-owner at Trackhouse, seemed really defeated that he wasn't able to get those charters. And we were wondering if he'd probably get a charter from Rick Ware Racing. That's what everybody expected that big announcement to be at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So we're like, yeah, Trackhouse gonna announce they have a charter, and then all of a sudden, then you see Chip Ganassi's there, and then everyone's wondering what is going on, and then they drop the bomb. Chip Ganassi Racing bowing out of NASCAR. Justin Marks, Pitbull, Trackhouse bought Chip Ganassi Racing's NASCAR Cup Series program, so they're gonna take over that shop and all of their equipment next year. Daniel Suarez staying with the team, and they're also going to expand into a 2-car organization at Trackhouse. Kurt Busch, Ross Chastain, the two leading candidates. And Joe, I'll give you a chance to respond since you haven't said anything about it yet. So what are your thoughts on this bombshell news with Trackhouse buying Chip Ganassi Racing before we head off into Formula One?
It was definitely a big bombshell. I know it was something not expected, as you mentioned. Everybody thought they're going to get charged from regular racing. What this really shows is the charter system, as much as it's not the perfect system, it is working. Years ago, when you had teams like Budmore Racing, Junior Johnson Racing, when they were at the point where they're not competitive, they're looking at selling, closing up shop, little to no value when it came to what they had, sold for the pennies. Now you have this system where essentially Chip Ganassi said a really great offer by Justin Marks and Trackhouse Racing. It wasn't for sale, but he got a great offer. This is what the charter system wants to do to make it where if you're investing into NASCAR, running a NASCAR Cup Series team, you know when you decide to leave, you could sell for higher value. You're going to get a lot of value for what you started in NASCAR. And it's just something where it's a good business model. And I think this really shows that a charter is working. Still has some flaws, but that's something NASCAR could always discuss and change later on, along with the RTA. Then as for Chip Ganassi stepping away, things definitely going to be sort of an end of an era when it comes to Ganassi Racing. Of course, they started 2001. Sterling Marlin, again, that team really competitive, essentially one of their best seasons in 2002 until he broke his neck in an injury at Kansas. Then Chip Ganassi just seemed to not be there 100%, especially after Dodge left. The deal with DEI at the time didn't really pay a whole lot. They were always there for wins every once in a while, including Jamie McMurray's season where he won the Daytona 500, Brickyard 400, almost a Coca-Cola 600. So they've always been there, but I think at the end, it was a business move by Chip Ganassi. Got a lot of bang for the buck. He's still racing in IndyCar, Extreme E. I wouldn't be surprised if he expand his sports car presence in the future, but I think it was just simply time to move on from NASCAR for Ganassi.
Yes, it was definitely time for him to move on from NASCAR, and I do think it's fortunate that that Chip Ganassi had to leave in order for Trackhouse to continue to move forward and survive. And like you said, charter system is not perfect, but in this case, as much as a lot of people hate to admit it, it shows that the business model is working in this aspect. Like I said, it's just disappointing to see Ganassi bow to NASCAR, but like you said, Joe, he's gonna be a part of racing for the foreseeable future. He has a strong 4-car lineup in IndyCar right now. They're doing great things right now. Alex Palou's leading. Scott Dixon's still doing Scott Dixon things. We're still in contention for the championship. Marcus Ericsson having a breakout season. Jimmy Johnson still learning the ropes of IndyCar. He's certainly getting a lot better, improving his pace. He's not quite there yet, but it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do by the end of the season. Like you said, the LMDH era is coming soon. It seems like Cadillac is going to announce a program at some point in the future, and Chip Ganassi is in contention to get the factory deal to run a factory LMDH program representing General Motors. So with Chip Ganassi downsizing his racing organization, that could definitely leave room for him to run a 2-car Cadillac LMDH program in the future. And in Extreme E's in its early days, we'll have to see if they remain committed to that. But definitely, I don't see Chip Ganassi going anywhere in motorsports, just leaving NASCAR.
Just leaving NASCAR. Teams come and go. Definitely he'll be around. And of course, Trackhouse, I think, is a great replacement team. Last one we want is Ganassi to leave, and then we have another backmarker team. Speaking about teams and backmarkers, right now all the talk is about the front two in Formula One. Of course, Max Verstappen, World Championship leader, he leads essentially Lewis Hamilton 4-3 in wins this year. Perez, the other driver that has the lone win, but that could possibly change this weekend. Qualifying, we saw Max Verstappen take the pole, and Lando Norris second, first front row start for McLaren and Lando Norris in a really long time. Perez is third, and then we have the two Mercedes back there in fourth and fifth. Is Mercedes starting to let this championship slip away?
I'm actually gonna say no. I don't think they're starting to let this championship slip away, but I certainly think that Max Verstappen and Red Bull have the upper hand at the moment. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Mercedes is not the top team right now in Formula One. Is definitely Red Bull. Max Verstappen is putting together some of the best drives of his career. Sergio Perez, yeah, he had a great win at Baku. He's doing a really great job scoring points for the team, keeping them running extremely well in the constructors championship. And I think Lewis Hamilton, and Valtteri Bottas, that they need to step up their game. And with the recent news that we just got about Lewis on a 2-year contract extension, I think that'll be one distraction they can put behind them, and they can completely focus now on taking the fight to Max for the championship.
I'm really surprised that Mercedes isn't even on the front row for tomorrow's Austrian Grand Prix. We saw last weekend Max Verstappen completely dominate at the Red Bull Ring, and it looks like he's on his way to dominating again. He's starting on pole, and Mercedes, they better find a way to step up their game because if Max Verstappen does what he did last weekend, it could be a Red Bull runaway for the championship. Drivers and manufacturers. Mercedes needs to have some really good pit stops tomorrow, get Lewis Hamilton at least on the podium, and for his teammate Valtteri Bottas, they better get him up to speed. Otherwise, he could lose his seat to George Russell. George Russell was in Q3. I believe he's starting 9th tomorrow. So it should be interesting to see what develops in Austria tomorrow morning.
Austria is going to be a very interesting race. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Mercedes to deliver the perfect race. They don't have the fastest car, so they got to really utilize strategy. And that's been a weakness lately, especially with Bottas. We know what happened in the French Grand Prix. Last race weekend, if there was even another lap to go, very likely Bottas could have been overtaken by Perez. Well, now Perez, Verstappen, and Lando Norris, the three of them are ahead of the Mercedes. This is really going to be something. And Lando Norris could be really tricky to pass because we know he has the straight lane speed when it comes to the fast straights there. So it's going to make it really hard. I know it's looking in the chat room. We have a question. Can Lando win? I do see another person respond. No, Lando will be back on the podium again. I know we talked about this last race weekend. I do anticipate Lando potentially in the podium. Kobe, Adam, do you see Lando podium or win?
Well, I think Lando Norris is more than likely going to finish on the podium, but we've seen some really crazy things happen in Formula One. I know last week I brought up Pierre Gasly winning the Italian Grand Prix at Monza and Sergio Perez in what used to be called Racing Point car winning at the Bahrain Almost Oval last season. So we can certainly see those surprise wins. I think McLaren's cars are getting much faster, and I think Lando Norris is doing an excellent job this season. I think the chances of Lando Norris finishing on the podium are definitely much higher than him winning the race, but who knows what could happen? We could see something really crazy happen, and Lando Norris could very well be standing on the top step of the podium.
I'm going to have to say Lando Norris is on the podium tomorrow too, and I believe he will be a contender for the win tomorrow. And just to give the viewers a heads up, when it comes to my pick a winner, everyone will be shocked. That's a little hint. I believe it's really cool to see Lando Norris on the front row tomorrow alongside Max Verstappen. And who knows? This could give Lando Norris if Lando Norris finishes really good tomorrow on the podium, hopefully it'll give him a lot of momentum going into the rest of the 2021 F1 season.
A ton of momentum, and Lando has been getting top 5 after top 5. Lowest finish is 8th this year. Everything else has been essentially top 5 podiums. And considering where he is with his new teammate Daniel Ricciardo, who is qualified 13th for today's race, I think Lando is really starting to show his stuff this year. Now, of course, last race weekend, Max Verstappen pretty much perfect. We talked about how Mercedes, they need to be picture perfect. Sergio Perez, that slow pit stop really hurted him. Lost the podium for a Red Bull 1-3. And then, of course, Bottas, an uneventful race, third place, but of course, he could have easily been overtaken. Between Bottas and Perez, and now especially with this news about Hamilton re-signing, which team really needs to be picture perfect Sunday when it comes to getting their driver on the podium? Is it Bottas or Perez?
I'm going to have to say Valerie Bottas because right now he could be driving for his job regarding next year. We've all heard the news that maybe it could be George Russell in the second Mercedes for next year. So if I was Valerie Bottas right now, I would step it up because this could be his last year with Mercedes.
And speaking of driving for his job, that seems to be the theme year after year for Valtteri Bottas. And I understand that it may be extremely frustrating for him, and that would be for anyone. Instead of having the confidence of the team where they sign you to multi-year extensions, I'd hate to keep signing these one-year deals year after year after year. And I keep wondering if I'm good enough for this team, or if the team doesn't value me or appreciate what I do for them. And considering the recent news that we literally just got very early this morning that Lewis Hamilton signed the contract extension and be with Mercedes for at least another 2 more years, Valtteri Bottas hasn't signed that contract yet. Contract up at the end of the year, so I definitely think that he's the driver between him and Perez who really needs to have a picture perfect Austrian Grand Prix, because, like you said, Adam, Valtteri Bottas could very well be driving for his job.
I have to agree. Driving for his job, we asked in the chat room, do you believe Bottas is driving under more pressure this year compared to last year and past years where he had these one-year contracts? One interesting comment from the chat room from Darkness Has Fallen. Pato O'Ward is taking that McLaren F1 seat. Definitely know we'll be talking about IndyCar shortly, and I'll definitely be bringing up this question. Thank you for sharing your questions and comments here in the chat room. We'd love to chat more about that, and we'll talk about that one towards the IndyCar portion, which is following the Formula One. Of course, we've been talking a lot about Red Bull versus Mercedes. That midfield battle is heating up. We talked about McLaren a lot. They're only 12 points ahead of Ferrari. Lando has scored over 80 points to carry that McLaren team. AlphaTauri, they're only 2 points ahead of Aston Martin. And of course, we've seen Pierre Gasly really carry that team, most of the points. After this weekend, do you think McLaren or AlphaTauri could be overtaken by one of the teams that are following them? Of course, we got McLaren being chased by Ferrari, AlphaTauri being chased by Aston Martin.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no. I think McLaren is gonna have a really great weekend, especially with Lando Norris. And going back to that comment in the chat room about Pato O'Ward taking that second seat at McLaren, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do think that Daniel Ricciardo should be worried, because in Formula One we know we always like to compare teammates since they're in supposedly equal equipment, and Lando Norris is absolutely blowing Daniel Ricciardo out of the water right now. And if Daniel Ricciardo doesn't improve his form to match Lando Norris's performance, who knows what could happen? And especially after Pato O'Ward won that race in Detroit, he made some really cryptic comments that were really interesting to me when he said that there's something else that he wants from McLaren, but he wasn't going to tell what it was. And I'm wondering if he's talking about he wants a McLaren Formula One seat, not just a test, but the seat. But I think the way Pato O'Ward is driving, he certainly has to make Zach Brown consider him for a future Formula One seat, if not next season, maybe in future seasons if he continues to dominate in the IndyCar series.
When it comes to midfield, I believe McLaren will stay on top of Ferrari and AlphaTauri this weekend. Lando Norris is starting second. Really strong showing overall this year. And McLaren is really good. I feel sorry for Daniel Ricciardo and all of his fellow Australian fans right now. I hope he keeps the seat for next year, because He is a really good F1 driver. Going back to the question about Pato O'Ward taking that second seat at McLaren could happen. But for me, I hope it doesn't because I have a lot of respect for Daniel Ricciardo.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens. I think Dan Ricciardo, I especially see tracks like Spa, Monza, where he could really gain the speed, come back, and try to make the case that, hey, he belongs in McLaren. Now, of course, one of the big things with this race weekend, one of the big hopes that Mercedes team has is rain. Right now, the forecast for tomorrow's race, there's never more than 55% chance of rain. It is in the forecast, but we've seen it where it's been in the forecast and it doesn't show up. I know a lot of NASCAR fans will reference their Waltrip series of the Vortex. I don't know how well that works in Formula One, but the big thing is there is a potential of rain, but it's still around 50%. So we may not have it. We may have it. That's a big thing Mercedes is looking forward to. And of course, Lewis Hamilton resigned to 2023, something they're very excited about. But now they got to look forward to who's going to be in that seat next year. And of course, we've been talking a lot about George Russell. He qualified ninth. He could potentially start higher up if Sebastian Vettel is handed a penalty for what happened in Q2 between him and Fernando Alonso. If we see George Russell finally score points in that Williams, could this be the weekend he solidify his seat in the Mercedes for 2022?
I'm going to have to say yes, because if George Russell gets that second seat at Mercedes, don't be surprised if he's up. Don't be surprised if he contends for wins. We saw what he did last year when Lewis Hamilton had COVID. He almost won. So, for me, I hope George Russell really does get that second seat at Mercedes because he's an up-and-coming driver, and if he's in front-running equipment, who knows? He could be a contender for a win, just like Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen. I like him. I have a lot of respect for him, and overall, I'm hoping that George Russell is in the points this weekend and has at least a top 5 or top 10 finish.
To be honest, I don't think that George Russell necessarily needs to score points this weekend to put himself in contention for the Mercedes seat. I think he's already in contention no matter how the rest of 2021 goes. Look what he did last year, like you mentioned, when he filled in for Lewis Hamilton alongside Valtteri Bottas. George Russell, he stepped in a car that he did not know, and he was better than Valtteri Bottas, and he very well could have won that race if he didn't have issues later on in that race. I really think that George Russell has a bright future in Formula One, and if George Russell does get that seat alongside Lewis Hamilton, I do think that it could create quite an environment in the team because, in my opinion, we obviously know Lewis is the number one driver, but I also think that George Russell is a number one driver as well. And when we see two number ones on the same team in Formula One, we typically see some fireworks that sometimes ends in tears.
Fireworks, sometimes tears. It's going to be really interesting to see. I know in the chat room someone had mentioned Red Bull 1-2 tomorrow. So definitely it's going to be very exciting. And of course, as we mentioned, we are anticipating that Sebastian Vettel will be given a grid penalty for what happened in qualifying. For those unfamiliar that missed it, during qualifying Q2, Sebastian Vettel blocked Fernando Alonso. When Fernando Alonso was on a hot lap, he didn't get in Q3. Vettel's did. So there's very likely going to be a grid penalty, potentially 3 positions. We're still awaiting official word. Right now, we're also waiting official word on what's going on with qualifying, as IndyCar qualifying is underway currently at Mid-Ohio. And here's Kobe with the latest from IndyCar.
Yeah, well, NASCAR's at Road America this weekend, an iconic venue on the IndyCar schedule. IndyCar raced at this track a few weeks ago, and tomorrow they race at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Alex Palou, the championship leader, finished 12th in race 1 last year, and they had a DNF also on lap 2 in the second race. They ran the doubleheader at Mid-Ohio last year because of the pandemic. Pato O'Ward last year, 11th and 9th. But unfortunately, qualifier did not go well for him at all. Pato was 10th fastest in Group 2 of qualifying, so that means that Pato is going to be starting really deep in the field, and that's not really good for Pato and his hopes to try to reclaim the championship lead from Alex Palou. Do you think, with the Ward starting so deep in the field tomorrow, do you think he's more likely to finish ahead of Palou?
If he finishes ahead of Palou, I think that would indicate that Palou had a rough race. Last year, Palou got DNF, 12th place finish, finishing behind O'Ward. Clearly, this wasn't his best track last year compared to Road America, where he got that podium. Now he's with Chip Ganassi, the experience of that team, the notes. He has a veteran teammate in Scott Dixon, Marcus Ericsson. I think there's a lot of effort to ensuring he keeps that lead. So definitely, if Alex Palou runs a clean race, he's going to finish up front. Pato O'Ward towards the back. If he finishes ahead of Alex Palou, that means Alex Palou had a rough race, probably DNF, and probably lost the championship lead.
When it comes to Pato O'Ward versus Alex Palou, we just talked about Pato O'Ward trying to deepen the field. I'd be, as we all know, Mid Ohio is a really, really tough track. And if Pato O'Ward can score at least score a top 10 finish tomorrow and be ahead of Alex Palou, he could be one of the drivers to start to pull away from everybody and hope maybe, just maybe, one hand on the NTT IndyCar Series championship. It's a long way to go, but right now it's Pato O'Ward, Alex Palou, and then me, the rest of the field.
And last year, Scott Dixon struggled here, and he's currently running third in the points. Remember the year before, Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenquist, when he drove for Chip Ganassi Racing, they battled till the very end, and it was a really close, almost photo finish in 2019. That was definitely a really exciting finish at Mid Ohio. Do you think this is the race where Scott Dixon can gain ground on Pato O'Ward and Alex Palou in the championship?
I'm going to have to say yes. Scott Dixon is a really good IndyCar driver. He's the, to me, if Scott Dixon goes out, has a really good qualifying, and starts up front, and maybe even wins the race tomorrow at Mid Ohio, I believe that he could be a strong third driver to contend for the championship.
Great point you said there. He'll be a strong third driver in the championship. He could gain ground on them. We know he's outside the range of taking over that lead, but he could definitely gain ground on O'Ward, on Palou. Then I think that'll be really his advantage. If he does that for the remainder of the season, you have two young guns and the veteran, the Iceman, Scott Dixon, in the championship. And a lot of people will be watching him for the remainder of the season.
And we do have 7 races left in the season. Mathematically, everyone's still able to win the championship, assuming the top 10 were to have absolute crazy bad luck and someone won 7 in a row. Do you believe other teams will be busy focusing on O'Ward and Palou this weekend, or do they just need to focus and run their own race?
You have to focus and run their own race, especially teams like Will Power and Ready Autosports with both Alexander Rossi, Ryan Hunter-Reay. They got to run their own race, and they have to try to go out there and get wins. Yes, near the end of the race, they may want to be concerned of, okay, if they're in second or third place and they have the points leader ahead or, behind them directly, try to put that gap to ensure they close up as much as possible. But for the majority of the race, focus on your own race because they've been struggling and they're behind.
I'm going to have to agree with you, Joe. I believe that the rest of the teams will start. I believe that each one of them has to run their own race tomorrow. And regarding Andretti Autosport, they better start to get their act together because it's almost the end of the year. I'm really surprised Alexander Rossi has not won a race yet this year. And they better start to have really good starting positions, quality pit stops, and come away with top 10, top fives, and top 10s, and maybe even some wins. Because right now, in Andretti Autosports, looks like they may have to start their focus on the 2022 season. Because to me, it's Pato O'Ward, Alex Palou, and then the rest of the field.
Yes, I really do think that it's really important for all the other drivers down the championship just focus and run their own race because there's a lot of things that are at stake. Beyond the championship this year, some of the drivers are actually could be driving for their future in the IndyCar series. I know I talked about it tonight earlier in the week. Andretti Autosport with the report coming from our support at Racer.com that we're more than likely going to see changes to the driver lineup at Andretti next year. Alexander Rossi, Cole Nerda have contracts for next year. They're coming back. But those other two cars, Ryan Hunter, James Hinchcliffe, they could be out at Andretti. We got Kyle Kirkwood, that youngster, and Indy Lights really tearing up the competition right now, showing a lot of potential. And also Oliver Askew, a part of the Andretti LMP3 program, and won the Indy Lights Championship with Andretti Autosport. We could see Oliver Askew get a second chance in the IndyCar series, and with 2 seats potentially open, Kirkwood, Askew, they could certainly be in contention for the seats they're currently being driven. Well, the cars are currently driven by Ryan Hunter, James Hinchcliffe, so those 2 drivers could be unnoticed. I'm sure there's some other drivers as well throughout the field who could be on the move.
A lot of drivers potentially on the move when it comes to IndyCar series next year. Andretti Autosports, definitely one of those teams that are going to be looking into making changes and moves. Speaking about moves, this weekend we only have Formula One, IndyCar, and NASCAR in the grid ranking running. Here are the top 10. Of course, Sebastian Ogier continues to lead. He becomes the 4th driver from France to lead. So that means France now leads New Zealand and the United States. Both of those countries have 3 drivers that led the grid ranking. France the first to have 4. And here's the full grid ranking. Of course, 7 series comprise the grid ranking each and every week. Total, we'll see who becomes the world champion. You can follow the grid ranking at Grid Ranking on Twitter. And then, of course, don't forget to follow the Grid World Motorsport League, the most complete series of ranking drivers from all around the world. So right now, Jason from British Superbikes leads that championship week 18, and you can follow them at grid_WML all year long. And of course, we're counting down the weeks for SRX. Second half of the 6-week championship is tonight, racing at Indianapolis, Lucas Oil Raceway. For some of the old school fans, Indianapolis Raceway Park, track I love growing up watching, especially Thursday Night Thunder, and then of course the NASCAR Xfinity and Truck Series. Scott Speed, he'll be back for the second straight weekend. Bobby Santos is the guest driver. Tony Stewart, he has, of course, swept the 2 dirt track races so far. And one of the big things is leads the championship by 33 points. Is this Tony Stewart's title to lose? And how can the field stop him?
Well, going back, I'm kind of cool to see that Lucas Oil Raceway is on the SRX schedule. I can remember also watching Thursday Night Thunder and Saturday Night Thunder back in the day. And to the viewers that may not know this, Tony Stewart has driven at Lucas Oil Raceway not only in NASCAR but in USAC competition, Silver Crown Series, midgets, and sprint cars. So right now, to me, it's Tony Stewart versus the rest of the field in SRX. Even though there's a lot of good, strong drivers that have a shot to win tonight, a lot of them have success at this track because they've competed in various NASCAR events there. So right now, I believe that right now it looks like Tony Stewart is on his way to claiming the inaugural 2021 SRX championship. But as we all know, anything can happen.
Yes, you're right, Adam. Anything can happen, and I do agree with you that it's certainly Tony Stewart's championship to lose. Tony Stewart, it's his series, and Tony's definitely getting the best out of the equal equipment right now in SRX. I don't really see anybody, honestly, at the moment being a major threat to Tony Stewart's championship. But you never know. Tony could have two bad heats, have a bad feature race, and then everybody else back in contention. I know we said Ernie Francis Jr. last week. He needed to be consistent the rest of the way to have a shot at getting Tony because he was the closest. Ernie had a really bad race last weekend on the dirt at Eldora. He got involved with some conflict. Tony Kanaan, those two were beating and banging on each other all night long. Ernie did not have a great finish. Fell in the championship to third. Helio Castroneves is second, 33 points behind. But really, I do think that Tony Stewart is in the catbird seat to win this championship, and I'll be shocked if he doesn't at this moment. And the others will definitely need to bring their A game if they want to beat Tony Stewart, because right now I don't see anybody stopping Tony.
Now it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show: pick a winner. And as we take a look at the standings, Joe is on top. Joe and Matt are tied with 17 wins. I'm third, and Kobe is fourth, with Ben Schneider rounding out the top five. It's time that we make our picks. First up, Formula One in Austria. Kobe, who do you have taking the checkered flag tomorrow morning?
Going with the driver who's currently the hottest in Formula One right now, riding that hot streak. Max Verstappen is going to get another victory and extend his championship lead over Lewis Hamilton.
I said it during the F1 portion. My pick would surprise some people, so here we go. I'm going with a driver that's starting second tomorrow, a driver that we've talked about here on the show a lot. Yes, I'm going with Lando Norris to surprise the field and capture the Austrian Grand Prix.
Lando will be the big surprise of the year, I think, if he got this win. I'm going to go with Red Bull, but I'm going to go with Sergio Perez. For some reason, I just got the sense that Max Verstappen, who has not done 3 in a row yet in his career, something could go wrong. Whether it's mechanical, it just seems that Red Bull, I just don't see Max Verstappen getting 3 in a row, but I do see Perez picking it up and getting the win.
Now it's time for our picks for the NTT IndyCar Series race at Mid-Ohio. Kobe, you're up. Who you got?
I think the veteran is going to catch up to the two youngsters at the top of the standings. The Iceman, Scott Dixon's going to win at Mid-Ohio.
Gotta agree with you, Kobe. I'm going with the Kiwi, Scott Dixon as well.
I'm going with Joseph Newgarden. He's finally going to get the job done with Penske and bring that Chevrolet into victory lane.
Now it's time for, as we wrap up the segment, NASCAR goes to Brat and Cheese Country at Elkhart Lake in Wisconsin. Kobe, who do you have winning the Cup race tomorrow?
I think a lot of people are going to be shocked with my pick. I'm going with a driver who is really good on road courses. He's not even a full-time NASCAR Cup Series driver to impress a lot of people in North Dakota. I'm going with the reigning NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, get his first Cup win, Austin Cindric.
That's a good pick, Kobe. But I'm going to have to go with the driver that he should have won on the road course at Daytona earlier this year. I'm going with the Dinger, A.J. Allmendinger, to capture his first career NASCAR Cup Series win at Road America.
I'm going to go with a driver that has a road course win, and I think it will be a surprise to many, Ryan Blaney. He's been quiet. He did pretty good in Pocono. I think he's going to get a win this weekend at Road America.
And now it's time for the SRX race at Lucas Oil Raceway in Indianapolis. Kobe, you're up.
Tony Stewart, enough said.
Smoke, next.
Marco Andretti, I think he's going to finally do it. And, of course, I want a little bit of a different pick just to ensure I could try to keep that lead and pick a winner. We encourage everyone to their pick of winners in the chat room. we're pretty much out of time, but we encourage everyone to visit Publis. If you're watching this, you get a 10% discount when you buy goodies for your dog, leashes, clothing, and all sorts of dog accessories for your buddy. And of course, we have our office dog, Kiska, who is a rescue dog as well. So this is a great cause that we also genuinely care about. And our Patreon subscribers, thank you so much. New fiscal year for us. Annual report is coming out shortly. Colin, Mark, Michelle, wonderful supporters. Be sure to join them, have your name on the board as well, and be sure to subscribe to us right here on YouTube. We're here every week. We're going to be back tomorrow with the Grid wrap-up show. Then again, Wednesday with Grid tonight. Thursday, the Women Racing Win. And back here to do it all over again. For Adam Lemeries, Kobe Lammers from the Podium Finish, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Enjoy the races. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Publis. Publis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Publis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.